Welcome to the Quality Rated webinar, Schedules and Transitions, where we'll discuss intentional schedules and transitions for a smooth classroom experience. First, we'll discuss schedules. The schedule is the planned order of daily classroom events. We will explore schedule-related questions such as, why is the schedule important? How does the schedule affect the children? What factors should be considered when planning the classroom schedule? We will also explore transitions. Transitions are the time children spend moving from one activity to another. We'll discuss questions related to transitions, such as, what are some practical tips for smooth transitions? What are some common transition pitfalls, and how can they be avoided? How can schedules and transitions affect ERS scores? Having a schedule in place helps children learn classroom activities and routines. When children are able to predict what will happen next, they feel secure and prepared. Consistent classroom schedules help create an environment where children are more likely to be engaged, attentive, and learn new knowledge. A schedule is also beneficial to teachers. Building relationships and trust can take place in a predictable classroom. Teachers can plan learning activities intentionally when there is a predictable sequence of events planned. With children who feel secure and in control, teachers can focus more on learning and less on managing behaviors. As you develop your schedule, there are some questions to keep in mind. 1. Is the schedule I'm creating appropriate for the age of the children that are in my classroom? For instance, infants typically don't have a planned schedule, but instead the schedule would reflect what each infant needs for independent care, such as sleeping when needed. 2. Young children love repetition and predictability. A predictable schedule gives children confidence in knowing what is coming next and then comfort in the repetition, just like how children enjoy hearing their favorite book read to them over and over. 3. Does the schedule you have posted reflect what the children actually experience every day? And is it flexible? For example, do you stay outside for a longer amount of time on a warm and sunny day? Lastly, it is helpful to think about those times of the day that can be more challenging, such as cleaning up from lunch and assisting the children with laying down for nap. Have you built in enough cushion and support in your schedule to ensure you can take care of routine care tasks that often require a lot of supervision and attention from the teachers? When creating a schedule, what are some of the important elements that need to be considered? Daily activities, such as routine care activities, can be a good place to start when building a schedule. Everyday activities, such as meals and snacks throughout the day, rest and nap, and thinking about how and when diapering and toileting will occur, all need to be included in the schedule. Additionally, it's helpful to include the time needed to transition from one space or activity to another, such as moving from outdoor play to indoor play. It takes time to get all children indoors to complete hand washing, and it will help the day run smoothly when these transitions are built into the schedule intentionally. We will discuss transitions in more detail later. In addition to routine care, the schedule should provide ample opportunities for the children to engage in play and learning activities throughout the day. Research tells us that children learn best in environments where they can participate in open-ended play with materials that are age-appropriate. This open-ended free play provides opportunities for intentional teaching and meaningful interactions. Outdoor play, where they can use their large muscles, imaginations, and practice learning new skills, is important to include daily. Any group activities, small or large, should also be included in the daily schedule. It's important to keep group times optional for children, flexible, and appropriate for the ages and abilities of the children in the group. Keep in mind, large group activities are not appropriate for infants. Now, let's look at these elements individually. Free play is an essential part of a classroom schedule and is a great opportunity for children to learn social, collaborative, and conflict resolution skills. It allows children to choose materials and companions while managing their play freely. Indoor free play will ideally make up most of the schedule and provide many varied choices for the children to choose from. It also consists of the children's chosen activities. This allows the children to stay engaged and to be themselves. While free play is mostly child-directed, it is a great time for teachers to join children and to expand on what they are experiencing. Outdoor free play is also a very important part of the schedule and occurs daily, weather permitting. Ideally, outdoor free play occurs for at least 1 hour per day, with some time in the morning and some in the afternoon. Next, let's look at group time. Group time, whether it be a small or large group, is ideally based on the ages and abilities of the children. For example, group time in a toddler classroom will be a much shorter length of time than a 3-year-old classroom because of the age and abilities of the children. For infants, group times are not appropriate. Participation during group time is optional and never forced upon the children. Forcing group times when the children are not engaged can cause them to be bored, resistant, and have difficulty retaining any new information. Providing several alternate activities during group time is recommended. When the teacher is aware of the children's engagement, adjustments can be made to encourage participation. Flexibility allows teachers to maximize learning based on the children's interests. Keep in mind that group time is not a required component of the daily schedule. Next, we will talk about the expectations for group time in each of the environment rating scales. Planning for group time in the schedule will need to be based on the scale used for the classroom. In Vickers, group time is ideally 20 minutes or less for the entire day. If the children are unengaged, or if the group lasts longer than 20 minutes, the total amount of group time is counted towards much of the day. In ITERS 3, group time is ideally 20 minutes or less and occurs infrequently. If the children are unengaged, or if the group is longer than 20 minutes, the total amount of group time is considered a lapse in access to materials. A link to the ITERS 3 Access Summary resource will be provided on the final slide of this presentation for more information. In ECHRS 3, the length of the group times are based on the children's interests. Flexibility in the schedule will allow for group times to be adjusted based on how long children remain interested. Ideally, group times are optional whenever possible, with alternative activities available. The amount of time spent in groups should not interfere with the time needed for free play, outdoor time, or routines. In SAKERS U, ideally group time is optional for the children, set up to take place during indoor or outdoor free play, and the length of time is based on engagement. Now, let's look at routines. When planning for toileting and diapering, it is important to consider staffing patterns to ensure adequate supervision, minimized wait times and lapses, and to promote individualized toileting diapering. Children should be taken to the toilet at least once during the observation. Diapers should be checked at least every 2 hours and changed when needed. Individualized diapering toileting can help ensure that the needs of all children are met. For example, changing an infant when the infant needs to be changed, rather than waiting until a scheduled group diapering time, is a great way to meet the infant's individual needs. Another example would be periodically asking toddlers and 2-year-olds if they need to use the restroom. Having a plan during toileting diapering times can help with avoiding lapses and waiting times. Planning for the roles of each staff member and considering the location of the restroom or changing table are important factors to consider when planning. It is also important to ensure that your expectations for the children are appropriate and based on their ages and abilities. Now, let's look at meals. For meals, it is helpful to consider the ages and needs of the children when scheduling meal times. It is important to consider the individual needs of all children during mealtime. According to Caring for Our Children, 4th edition, children should be offered food at intervals at least 2 hours apart, but no more than 3 hours apart unless the child is asleep. Some very young infants may need to be fed at shorter intervals than every 2 hours to meet their nutritional needs, especially breastfed infants being fed expressed human milk. Lunch may need to be served to toddlers earlier than preschool-aged children because of their need for an earlier nap schedule. Also, children should be allowed time to eat their food and not be rushed during the meal or snack service. The individual eating habits of the children in the group should be considered carefully when designating meal times in the schedule. It is also important to offer drinking water between meals to children who eat solid food upon request, and especially if conditions call for it. Such conditions would include active gross motor play, warm outdoor temperatures, or if children are experiencing runny noses. It may not be appropriate to offer water to some infants who eat food. Therefore, infants under 12 months should be considered on an individual basis. Now that we know the basic components that need to go into the schedule, let's explore the transitions, which refers to the amount of time children take to move from one activity to another between those activities. When we think of planning for transitions, 3 times must be considered: before, during, and after. Before the transitions even happen, think about how to reduce the transitions present in the schedule. Planning to have meals right after a time that hands are washed can reduce the number of hand washing transitions. For the transitions that are kept in the schedule, have a plan not only for the children, but for the teachers. What is everyone doing? And finally, include cues. These could be verbal or nonverbal. Many times we use a song for cleanup, but what are some other ideas? During transitions is an opportunity to engage in learning. Allow children time to complete their play or project as much as possible. This may mean having an additional activity for those who finish faster. Provide individual support to children who need it. Some children may need directions in their home language, a visual cue, or timed warnings that an activity will finish in 3 minutes, for example. Consider engagement. Simply singing may not engage all children. Think of other activities that encourage more attention or involvement. In just a few minutes, we will take a look at some ideas you can try. After the transition, Give positive feedback that reinforces the expectations in the classroom. When children work together to try to accomplish a task more quickly, praise their teamwork. The time during transitions presents teachers with an excellent opportunity to promote children's independence. By having a schedule that allows children to transition independently, this gives them time to satisfactorily complete play and projects at their individual pace. Transitions are also a great opportunity to teach social-emotional skills by having children help each other through transitions. Finally, help children self-monitor by asking them to think about how quickly or quietly they moved from one activity to another. To help ensure smooth transitions, changes to the environment can be made to help guide the children for what to do during the transition. Lining up can be a very challenging part of transitions. To help make it smoother, define where children should line up. Some ideas might include using colored squares on the floor or having a designated spot against the wall. Another idea to help with cleanup is to have bins and shelves labeled. In addition to using words, also include pictures of the items. This creates learning opportunities for all and promotes autonomy. Cue cards can be helpful not only for the daily schedule, but also during transitions. Cue cards include simple visual representations of the transition and the expectations for the children. Before moving into the transition, the procedure can be reviewed. The cues can be used during the transition as well to help remind children of what steps come next. Let's check out a video with some insightful information about transitions.
Transitions take up a lot of time in preschool classrooms. Our first goal is to have as few group transitions as possible. Our second goal is to keep children engaged and learning when transitions do happen. Watch these videos and identify the strategies teachers use to make the most of transition times.
Ready, freeze. Brent, Antonio, we're freezing. What time is it? Time to go outside, so give 5 more minutes to play and now we're gonna clean up, okay?
This teacher provides a transition warning to the entire class. This helps them know that a change is about to happen.
Discovery. 1 more minute and then we're gonna clean up.
This classroom has a class monitor job.
Go to the computer area. Give my Rachel, we're gonna help him have it. He's gonna get 5 minutes.
5 more minutes. 5 more minutes.
Okay, let me tap them because they have headphones on so they can see the words. Gavin. 5 more. So splash them. 5 more minutes. 5 more. You got 5 minutes. Okay. Where are we going next?
The child notifies the other children of an impending transition. The teacher assists the child as he makes his rounds.
5 more minutes, friend. Come stand by the wall and we'll wait for Alora. What should we sing while we're waiting? How about give me a home among the gum trees with lots of plum trees, a sheep or 2 and a kangaroo.
While waiting in line, this teacher sings a song with the children to keep them engaged.
And an old rocking chair.
Patience is trying to sing our song. Do you guys want to do it? Yeah. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4.
A countdown routine and song helps children in this classroom know what comes next. Complete the activity in this section to identify the transition strategies that were used and how you can apply these and others in your classroom.
There are several common pitfalls that occur during transitions. Let's look at some ways to avoid and prevent them. All children come inside from outdoor play as a large group, causing children to have long wait times before washing their hands. If staffing allows, try staggered transitions. One teacher can go indoors with a small group of children to help with hand washing, while the other teacher remains outdoors with the rest of the group. As children finish hand washing, they can go straight to free play, while the remaining children and teacher begin to transition to hand washing. For FCC providers, consider providing designated materials near the restroom so that children have something to do. Plan ahead to avoid contamination issues. Children wait at tables for others to finish hand washing before meals. Station one teacher to help with hand washing and one teacher to serve food to children as they finish hand washing. If food is not available yet, lead children in an engaging table activity without materials, such as songs, finger plays, or seated movement activities. Also, coordinate with food service staff to be notified of food delays before they occur. The last few children wait longer than 3 minutes to be dismissed from a group to go to free play. Be intentional about keeping the transitions less than 3 minutes. Call more than one child at a time. Keep it moving. Avoid focusing on rigid control before dismissing each child. Expecting children to all sit on bottoms, perfectly quiet, and face forward often adds unnecessary time to transitions. In mixed age groups, infants or young toddlers are left in restrictive devices while older children transition. Ensure that children have access to some materials if they need to remain in a device for a short period. Intentionally take steps to minimize the amount of time spent in restrictive furnishings. Transitions take longer than expected and cut into scheduled free play time. Be sure to provide a cushion in the schedule before and after free play periods to ensure children can maximize their free play experience. For instance, if the schedule goes straight from outdoor play to indoor free play, be sure to account for the time needed to transition indoors, hang up coats, wash hands, get a drink of water, etc. All children must stop play when one child needs to use the restroom, which is located away from the play area. Utilize floaters or other staff to take children to the restroom. If additional staff is not available, lead the children in an engaging activity such as a verbal or logic game, songs, finger plays, or a movement activity. FCC providers, consider providing designated materials near the restroom so that children have something to do. Plan ahead to avoid contamination issues. To summarize, let's look at some top tips for group transitions. Keep in mind, transitions are most efficient when they are gradual and individualized. It's best to eliminate as many group transitions as possible. When group transitions are necessary, remember, above all, keep transitions short. Avoid repeated and forced use of books, as it sends a negative message about books. In addition to books, consider other materials when appropriate. Provide activities or materials during waits that keep children engaged and learning. Use verbal and/or visual cues that let children know what's happening next and be consistent. Reinforce expectations through repetition, and make sure those expectations are age-appropriate. Show appreciation and recognition when children get it right. Now, let's look at the ERS scales. Some indicators are obviously related to schedules and transitions. Other indicators are less obviously related, but you'll see that effective schedules and transitions can greatly and positively affect ERS scores in every scale. The schedule can affect nearly every item in each of the 4 scales. Transitions also play a major role in scoring, depending on how they are handled. Here is a sample containing a few indicators in the I3 scale that have an obvious connection to the classroom schedule and transitions. These indicators relate directly, and you will see that they include key words such as schedule, transitions, waiting, and lapses. Generally, at the good and excellent levels, waiting is minimized, transitions are smooth, and the schedule is intentionally created based on the ages, abilities, and individual needs of the children. There are many other indicators in many items of the I3 scale that are less obviously related to the schedule and transitions, but the scores can be greatly impacted depending on the classroom's approach to the schedule and transitions. For example, these 3 sample indicators address the individual needs of children related to the meal schedule, how group activities are handled, and the general appropriateness of expectations. If the approach to schedules and transitions in the classroom is effective, then indicators like these will likely be scored positively. Here we see the same is true for E3. Many indicators are obviously related to schedules and transitions, such as these examples that mention the expectations for indoor and outdoor free play time, transition preparation, and waiting. Many other indicators are less obvious, but require that the schedule and transitions are planned and adequate so that opportunities exist for the indicators to be met. For instance, in the peer interaction item in E3, Indicator 5.1 expects peer interaction to be evident during at least half of the observation. For this indicator to be met, the children would need many opportunities for free play in the schedule. If the children experience many required group times and lengthy transitions, they will not have the opportunities needed for the good level of peer interaction. For Vickers R, again, there are many indicators in many items that are directly related and use key words such as schedule, waiting, and play period. Many indicators depend on the schedule being planned intentionally for the different age groups served. Many indicators in the Vickers scale are dependent on materials being accessible for much of the day. All much of the day indicators are affected by intentionally planned transitions that avoid wait times and a schedule that includes mostly free play. Many less obviously related indicators include group times that are optional and limited to short periods, as well as providing much opportunity to participate in free play. Without being intentional about the schedule and transitions, the expectations of many indicators can be difficult to meet. For school-age children, the schedule looks quite different compared to the other age groups. Many of the directly related indicators discuss specific expectations for the schedule, such as flexibility, outdoor gross motor play, and including planned and spontaneous opportunities for play. As we have seen with the other scales, SAKERS also has many indicators that are less obviously related. For example, in the space for privacy item, at 3.1 it would be difficult to meet this indicator if the schedule did not provide ample free play time during which children could find a space to play alone if they want. Here are 4 great resources to refer to when creating schedules and planning for transitions. Please visit the Quality Rated website to find additional webinars in this series. We hope you've gained a stronger understanding of schedules and transitions. Thank you for joining us.